Hey everybody, Eric Brown here, and welcome back for another deep dive. So today we're looking at something that might seem pretty basic at first.
Okay.
Working at heights in the mining industry. Now, we hear that phrase, working at heights, and it kind of sounds pretty self-explanatory, right?
Right.
But when we're talking about mining, I have a feeling it's a whole different ballgame.
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely not like, changing a light bulb or cleaning your gutters or something. When you're talking about mining, you're dealing with some serious heights. You've got those massive open pit mines where you could be working hundreds of feet down.
Why, yeah.
Then you've got the underground mines with all those tunnels and shafts. And let's not forget about the scaffolding and platforms they use to access those hard-to-reach areas. It's a whole other world.
So it's not just about the height itself,
Yeah.
right? It's the whole environment that makes it so challenging.
Exactly. You're dealing with uneven terrain, sometimes unstable ground conditions, and then you throw in things like dust, darkness, and heavy machinery. It's a recipe for potential hazards.
Okay, so you've painted a pretty vivid picture here of what working at heights in mining really means. But let's get specific now. What are some of the biggest dangers workers face in these situations?
Well, the most obvious one is falls, right? I mean, that's the one everyone thinks of first.
Yeah, falls from heights. Makes sense.
But it's not just about falling yourself. You also have the risk of objects falling from above.
Oh, right. Like tools or equipment.
Exactly. Imagine a wrench or a piece of rock falling from 100 feet. That could be fatal.
That's a terrifying thought.
And then you have equipment malfunctions. Harnesses can fail. Platforms can collapse. Even something as small as a loose bolt can lead to a major accident.
You mentioned harnesses, so that brings us to PPE.
Right.
What kind of personal protective equipment is essential for mitigating these risks?
Oh, PPE is absolutely crucial. We're talking hard hats, safety glasses, harnesses, fall arrest systems, the whole 9 yards.
And I'm guessing it's not just about wearing the PPE.
It's about wearing the right PPE for the specific task,
That's different.
right? So,
Exactly. Making sure it's all in good condition
absolutely.
and that workers are properly trained on how to use it.
You got it. Training is key. Workers need to understand the hazards they're facing and how to use their PPE effectively.
So let's talk about training for a second. What does effective safety training look like in this industry?
Well, it has to be comprehensive. We're not talking about a 10-minute video and a quick quiz here. We're talking about in-depth training on hazard identification, risk assessment, emergency procedures, rescue techniques.
Sounds pretty intense.
It is, but it's essential to keep workers safe.
Now, even with the best training and equipment in place, accidents can still happen.
Sadly, yes.
So what about emergency response plans? How do those come into play?
Emergency response is crucial in the mining industry. You need to have a plan in place for any possible scenario, whether it's a fall, a fire, a collapse. Everyone needs to know their role, and there needs to be clear communication.
So we're talking drills,
Yeah,
regular practice,
exactly.
making sure everyone knows what to do in a crisis situation.
And that includes having the right equipment on hand. Things like first aid kits, rescue equipment, communication devices.
Okay, so we've got a solid foundation here. We've covered the hazards, the PPE, the training, and the emergency response plans. But now let's shift gears a bit. Let's say I'm giving a presentation on this very topic. How can I make this information really resonate with my audience?
Well, you want to make it relatable, right? You want people to really understand the human impact of these hazards.
How do we do that?
Stories, personal anecdotes, statistics can be impactful, but they can also feel a bit abstract.
Right.
But if you can share a story about a real person who is injured or even killed because of a fall or a dropped object that hits home.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like putting a face to the statistics.
Exactly.
Speaking of putting a face to it, what about technology? We're in the 21st century. We've got drones. We've got automation. Are these things changing the landscape of working at heights in mining?
Oh, technology is definitely playing a role. Drones are being used for inspections, which means fewer workers have to physically climb to those dangerous heights.
So that's a huge step forward.
And automation is becoming more common, too. Think about things like robotic drilling rigs or remotely operated vehicles. These technologies can perform tasks in hazardous areas without putting human workers at risk.
So in a way, technology is helping to redefine what working at heights even means in the mining industry.
Absolutely. It's an evolving field. And as technology continues to advance, we're going to see even more changes in the way work is done.
So folks, it looks like we've come full circle. We started by trying to understand what working at heights means in the context of mining. And we ended up exploring not just the hazards and the safety protocols, but also the human stories behind those statistics, and even the cutting-edge technologies that are changing the face of the industry. It's been a fascinating deep dive, and I hope you've all learned something new.
I sure have.
But before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought. As these technologies continue to evolve, how will they affect the skills and training needed for the mining workforce of the future? That's something I'd like you all to ponder. So until next time, stay safe out there.
And keep exploring.